Once again, Arrow McLaren is playing a game of musical chairs with its number 6 Chevrolet, as they've now signed Nolan Siegel for the remainder of the 2024 NTT IndyCar Series season. Now, Siegel will replace Theo Pourchaire starting this weekend at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Talk about a major turnaround in a month for the 19-year-old California kid, who went from getting bumped from the Indianapolis 500 to signing a multi-year deal for a full-time ride. Siegel called this an unexpected jump, but feels thrilled to be in this position after spending time in Indy NXT with HMD Motorsports, who missed the last race at Road America to fill in for Agustin Canapino at Juncos Hollinger Racing. HMD said that given the opportunity to compete full-time for the remainder of the 2024 NTT IndyCar Series season, HMD Motorsports has agreed to allow Nolan Siegel to continue his climb to the top of the motorsports ladder. We are incredibly excited for Nolan as he takes this significant step in his career, and we wish him the best of luck as he makes the jump to compete full-time at Arrow McLaren. At HMD Motorsports, our goal as a development team is to help drivers break into the NTT IndyCar Series, and we could not be more proud of Nolan for reaching his milestone. Now, in just 4 seasons, HMD Motorsports has successfully helped 6 drivers advance their careers, and Nolan's success is a testament to our commitment and passion for nurturing talent. Interesting enough, though, as well, McLaren's sporting director, Tony Kanaan, spent time on Siegel's timing stand when the youngster was struggling for speed on bump day. Kanaan received permission from McLaren to coach Siegel and help him through this stressful moment. Then, in the last weekend's 24 Hours of Le Mans, Siegel won the LMP2 class with United Autosports. Ironically, McLaren's CEO Zach Brown owns that sports car team, so it seems like the dots have been connecting for a little while now. Team principal Gavin Ward said signing Siegel gives the team a chance to build a foundation for the future after playing musical chairs all season long with David Malukas, Callum Ilott and Theo Pourchaire, all signed to drive this car. He continued by praising Siegel for having an immense amount of experience in his young career, and he's excited to continue this upward journey together. It's believed that Siegel's services for 2025 were in high demand, so the team felt like they had to make a move on him now or potentially watch him slip away to a rival organisation. But this came at the expense of Pourchaire, who we'll talk about more in a little while. The photo courtesy there of Arrow McLaren. So then, here we go. Matt, starting with you on this one as well. It's going to get confusing with both of you being on the show tonight. But Matt, how huge is this new opportunity for Nolan Siegel's career? And is he ready for the enormous pressure of being an Arrow McLaren driver?
Well, good evening, guys. I don't think any of us quite expected this to be happening this week. And here it is, another Arrow McLaren driver market bombshell. Not the first and probably not the last. But great for Nolan, who has been knocking on the door of this for a little while and has been really, really fast in Indy Next so far this season and in the championship contention. Obviously that now is going to go away, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there, but great chance for him to get up into the top class, basically into IndyCar, and let's see what he can do. That car has been fast with whoever has been behind the wheel of it, and it's had multiple people in that seat so far this year, the number 6. So let's see what Nolan can do over the next few races. Let's hope that McLaren give him some time to get a bit more acclimatized to the team and how they work and setups and all that kind of thing. Don't rush him. But I think Gavin Ward's, quote there about getting him and getting it done before other people snapped him up while they had maybe they had some sort of first option contract on Nolan to get him into the team. They've snapped at that because he certainly was going to be in high demand, and if he did go on, if he'd stayed in Indy Next and gone on and won that championship this year, then a lot of teams I would have thought would have been sniffing around for to put him in their car for next year. So really good opportunity for him going forward. And as I say, let's hope McLaren give him a good bunch of time to get himself acclimatized and get up to speed.
Start with this, Josh, Kobe. Thank you guys for having me. Nolan Siegel being under pressure. It feels like the past 4 weeks have been, as you said, Josh, it's been just such highs and lows qualifying a Dale Coyne car in, having obviously not getting into the 500, but putting it all on the line. Then jumping into a JHR car with literally less than an hour of preparation. Then going over to Le Mans for your first time with, as you know, Matt, a top tier team in LMP2 United Autosports, and winning on your first try. To do all of this in such a short amount of time with such little preparation, Josh, this feels like Ocean Gate levels of pressure that this kid's been under. And for more or less, he's been really, really thriving, I'd like to think, if you put aside, Indy. So I think the real question here is, I was proud of the Ocean Gate one. I really do believe that, I think if any of the pressure, and we're going to talk about this, is the contract side of things and what happens if, there's not consistent success right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one as well, because it has been musical chairs, as we said earlier on. But let's talk about the driver who ended up getting hurt in this situation, which is Theo Pourchaire. Now, the 2023 Formula 2 champion was left without a seat on the 2024 Formula 1 grid, so the Sauber reserve driver was given a home for the year in Super Formula. Now, after his race program in Japan got off to a poor start, he was given an opportunity to debut in IndyCar with Arrow McLaren at Long Beach. An impressive debut race turned into 5 IndyCar races with a best finish of 10th at Detroit. Now, apparently, Pourchaire assumed he was going to be racing in Laguna Seca this weekend. Based on this now deleted post, captured via screenshot by @NASCARMan on X, Pourchaire said, "Man, I can't believe I'm going to race on the legendary Laguna Seca this weekend. Can't wait to be there for the Grand Prix of Monterey." Of course, #IndyCar. I love how Theo Pourchaire has also retweeted, "Live in California, need something to do next weekend." And that was from the Arrow McLaren official Twitter as well. NASCAR Man also quoting that as well with his own comments, saying as well, "McLaren is such a goofy team, the way they handle everything." I think the Grid Tonight show has said that many a times. We've ended up talking about this situation. Just going to move that down a little bit. Coming into it as well. So, according to Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com, 3 IndyCar teams have shown interest in Pourchaire's services for the future, and the driver himself said he was interested in staying in IndyCar to drive for a new team. Pourchaire left Super Formula to pursue IndyCar and got dumped by Arrow McLaren days before Laguna Seca, after the team previously organised an in-season oval test at Gateway to prepare him for oval racing. Now, the Frenchman was supposed to drive the number 6 Chevrolet full-time for the rest of the year until Nolan Siegel came along. Members of the team really seemed to like him, giving him the nickname Teddy Pork Chops as well. And we've heard that on the commentary as well several times already in the past 5 races. So, Jackson, back to you on this one. Did Theo Pourchaire get screwed by Arrow McLaren? And do you see him continuing his IndyCar career with a new team?
You can't be mad at Nolan Siegel for this, because if Zach Brown approaches you with a contract, of course you're going to say yes, but it's hard for me to say Nolan Siegel, or excuse me, it's hard for me to say Pourchaire didn't get totally played by this, and it calls into question yet again I don't want to say ethics, but how they are treating, especially this number 6 seat, since Malukas has had this issue. And you can maybe date this all the way back to Pelot, but it's just been a lot of experimentation from Zach Brown, for better or for worse. So a lot of people are saying it's a controversial move to see Malukas. I get why this whole thing has happened, because you want a guy with oval experience. And even if it's not in the big cars, Nolan Siegel has that, when Theo Pourchaire has been to one shakedown, I believe, at Gateway. Obviously didn't do Indy. Callum was in the car for that. But for Pourchaire, I mean, the guy finished 10th on debut in Long Beach. He's consistently been already a fan favorite. He moonwalked in the rain during delay at IMS. Like, how can you not like Teddy Porkchops? But no, to answer your question, I don't think it's going to be with McLaren, but we know that Dale Coyne is still looking for guys to fill in the 18 and the 51. I don't know what Ganassi's looking like next year with those 2 auxiliary seats. JHR, are they going to keep around Canapino? Looks like it. I don't know, but it would be really hard for me to believe, Matt White, that we're not going to see Teddy Porkchops in an IndyCar next year, if not full season.
Yeah, I mean, and he was obviously when the deal was signed for him to come, he still said, you know, his eyes and most of his focus was trying to get to Formula One day. And of course, as part of the Sauber Junior program, that potentially could have happened. But over the last, 6 or 7 weeks, he's had all those runs, impressive runs at that, with this team. And maybe he's gone, you know what, actually, I've got a fair shot at a run at a good career here in America. Here for you guys, obviously not here for where I am. But that's now been cut short. Why would they go to the trouble of taking him to Gateway and giving him a run on the oval if they weren't going to run him later on at Gateway, at Milwaukee, and of course at Nashville for the finale? Seems like an odd decision now in hindsight. As I said in the chat earlier in the week when this was announced, David Malukas' bicycle has got a lot to answer for here, because if little Dave hadn't fallen off, we wouldn't have been talking about Malukas, we wouldn't have been talking about Pourchaire, we wouldn't have been talking about Ilott, we wouldn't have been talking about potentially Tony Kanaan getting in the car at Indy. And as you mentioned, Jackson, if Zach Brown had got his way, Alex Palou would have been in the 6th car all this time and we wouldn't have had an issue. But yeah, really feel for Pourchaire. I'm a bit of a fan of him coming through in the European ladder as such up to Formula 2 and of course winning the championship. And that's another Formula 2 champion that now is sat on the sideline, sort of ish. We had Felipe Drugovic's run at Le Mans last week, but another Formula 2 champion looking in from the outside. Adam says, "Hi Matthew. To me, Nolan Siegel deserved at least 2 full years in Indy Next before moving to IndyCar." Well, as I said, Adam, if he was in the championship battle and ended up winning it, then he probably would have jumped up to ride next year. And as Jackson mentioned, there's plenty of sort of middle to lower end teams that would have taken him, especially with that cash money that you get for winning the championship as well.
Yeah, couple of thoughts here really quick, and I totally agree with you, Adam, but I think this guy's had enough kind of back and forth experience, both in the lights and in the actual Indy cars themselves, that I think he is ready for this jump, although we're going to see how this plays out. For Pourchaire, if you look on Sauber's website right now, still under their list as a reserve driver. I've heard nothing from anyone saying that has changed. However, if there is a move, you got to ask if Sauber is willing to pull Pourchaire, who's been in America, who's been anywhere but their garage this season, and instead look to Zane Maloney, who's currently 3rd in the points for Formula 2 and has had a fantastic season, Josh.
It would make more sense, wouldn't it? Because Maloney's going to have, I believe, a drive in a practice session later on this year. Pourchaire, I don't think was ever down for one, because he was supposed to be Super Formula and then went over to America with McLaren. So I think Sauber, who are becoming Audi, don't want somebody else in their car from another manufacturer. So, but he's part of the Sauber development program. He's got messy. And I've got a feeling it's come from that a little bit as well. I'll be driving the number 6 at some point this year.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. But I don't know. I've got this feeling there's something else that has come from this, i.e., in the last 24 hours, something's happened where Pourchaire's been given an opportunity. McLaren have gone, right, well, goodbye then. Out you go. I've got a feeling that McLaren have started this as a reaction to something, because it's all too weird. It doesn't make sense. And I can sort of get why Siegel's under a bit of pressure, especially after winning Le Mans. But no, it just all seems a bit like thrown together at the last second.
Question, because I don't know. Was Zach Brown in France last week?
That's a great question.
Because he obviously would have had dealings with the contract situation, and you would have figured that this Nolan Siegel thing was done after the race, during the race.
That had to have been one of the deciding factors, yeah.
And as you mentioned, and as Gavin Ward's quote was, they needed to get him while they could. So unfortunately, last man in, first man out with Pourchaire. They're never going to get rid of Pato, will they?
I believe I saw him in a United Autosports jacket at some point, but it was a very long 24 hours. But I think he was in the garage at one point. Yeah,
I would have thought he would have checked in. There was no Formula One, obviously, last weekend, and he wasn't at Road America. So where else could he have been? Probably Le Mans.
Last thing, yeah. Last thing before we move on here, there is one thing that we are unfortunately losing as a result of that, and that is objectively the coolest fire suit in racing history, which was the one Siegel had. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, had palm trees on it, was green, and just the things you can do creatively when you have no sponsors or have very little sponsors, and seeing what these kids do is really cool. And God, that fire suit was so sick. I'm gonna miss it. But Josh, get us out of here. Keep us going.
It'll appear somewhere across the line, I'm sure.